Good morning, and we are live. Man, it is good to be back. It is good to be. You'll notice I'm not wearing a hat today. Got a little bit of a technical issue. Earbuds died on me, so I guess I'm going to buy myself an early Christmas present, get some new earbuds. But we're doing it with the old Bose headphones today, and those don't work too well with the hat. So there we are. There we are. God, it is good to be back, folks. Let's just dive right into it. Man, it is good to be back with you folks. I am not kidding. And I have missed y'all like you would not believe. I mean, this was, whew. I mean, it was good to get away and I'm feeling great. I mean, I did my best Matthew McConaughey impression and ran down I love traveling the world. I do. I do. It was what me and Mrs. Texas Paul planned to do with our lives when we got to this point, and this is what we're doing. I ran down to. I know everybody's going to have questions, so I'll just throw it out there. We ran down to a rainforest down in Central America, and I have to tell you, it was one of the most beautiful places I've ever been to in my life. I mean, stunning. It reminds me when I went to the Grand Canyon. You can't ever tell anybody what the Grand Canyon looks like. Pictures, I can show you pictures all day long of the Grand Canyon, and I promise you, until you see it with your own eyes, it's meaningless. It is meaningless. It will take your breath away. But yeah, we got down. We went down and hung out in the rainforest. I did my best Matthew McConaughey impression. We ended up going out to an old boy's plantation out there. Got to see some cacao trees with pods on them. Got to see some howler monkeys, and it was really cool. They wanted to give us a taste of the actual rainforest, so they have trails cut out into the undeveloped portion of the plantation out into the rainforest. And I've got to tell you folks, the emerald green, and it was early in the morning, there was mist throughout the trees, just incredible. I can't tell you. And we went out to this hut out there, and they had an old crank machine where they squeezed sugar cane. And we just hung out, talked, had a good time. Fresh sugarcane juice, some some moonshine rum that they made from their own sugar juice, and did shots. Had a great time. I had a really cool thing happen. I didn't get to actually see a panther, but I had a close encounter with one that I couldn't see. We left the shack down there, and we were walking, and we went down the trail till we got to an actual road that was cut, and there had been some rain, so all the puddles and stuff were full, right? I mean, it's the rainy season down there. But we're walking along, and I look down and I see a patch of, it's just mud. There's no grass growing there. And there's a paw print. And I immediately recognize this is not a dog's paw print. This isn't a coyote's paw print. This is a cat. You can tell the difference by where the toes are. And cats have retractable claws. If you see a dog's paw print, you'll see claw marks because dogs can't retract their claws. When they push down into the mud, the claws push down in the mud. So I knew I was looking at a cat. And it made me think about, we'd been listening, the howler monkeys had been going crazy. You could hear them off in the distance. Again, that's something you see on TV or hear on TV. No comparison at all. So yeah, I see this paw print, and I'm making friends with the old dude that owns the place. Is cool as you would be. We couldn't understand each other for anything. We're talking through a translator back and forth, but you could just the coolest guy you'd ever want to hang out with. And I have to tell you, dirt poor country, it is poverty stricken as hell, but the nicest people you'd ever want to meet. But anyways, I'm like, hey man, check it out. And he's like, okay, we got to go. And I didn't really occur to me. I didn't even think about it. And then as we're walking off, he's explaining, he says, yeah, there's no water in that print. That's a fresh print. Notice everything got real quiet. Yeah. You can't see him, but he's here and he's close. If the monkeys are quiet, all the animals are quiet, there's a fresh paw print that you just saw. Time for us to go. So we marched our butt up the hill and we went and watched some chocolate getting made. And it was great. It was great. Went and took a look at Panama City. Panama City was beautiful, stunning city of 2.5 million people. Totally amazed at how incredible the skyline is. Incredible. I don't know about you, but when I was thinking about Panama City, I was thinking about something maybe a little third world, something that wasn't quite, written. No, wonderfully nice city, incredible city, just amazing. But yeah, I went and got my Zen on. Everything was all right. Got away from the politics a little bit. If you follow me on social media, I didn't get too damn far away from the politics because, I just couldn't put it down. I was monitoring what was going on here in the States, even out in the middle of anywhere. That's something that drove me freaking nuts. My connection in the middle of a Costa Rican rainforest to the internet was better than my connection is here in Texas. I cannot tell you what orbits of pissed off that left me. Screwed with my Zen so frickin' bad. And yeah, we had a couple Trumpers that were there with us. One old lady broke the door on the bus, trying to get back on the bus. She was so miserable and pissed off. I don't know how you're miserable and pissed off in the middle of one of the most beautiful places on earth, but Trumpers, man. Trumpers. Go figure. But yeah, it was a wonderful trip. So let's get down to it. Where are we at? What's happened? Let's talk about the election. Let's talk a little bit how we got here. Let's talk about what it means, what's going to happen, and what do we do now? All right. Bottom line. We lost. But it was about as close to a 50-50 election as you can get. House is going to break down to about a 5-seat margin, about 220 to 215, which means that Hakeem Jeffries is going to be able to fight the good fight in the House. And precisely. Sorry, Mrs. Texas Paul put kitty traps up all over my office, and Kitty found one. Yeah. Anyways, you got to forgive. There's going to be some some kitty in the show today. Dolly, I missed her a lot. I tell you what, I didn't miss my dogs that much. They're a pain in the ass. I didn't miss Gangster Kitty that much, but I missed her a lot. She's a good cat. I'm gonna let her hang out in the show. But yeah, let's talk about it. Let's dig into it. Nut cutting time. Senate, I don't know, Republicans picked up a couple there. We had Sherrod Brown lose. And I kind of saw that one coming. When you run as Republican light, you're going to lose. You are. But we fought our asses off. We did. But it wasn't like we took a drubbing. It wasn't like we just got the shit kicked out of us and there's nothing we can do now. I mean, I know I felt a lot of homelessness when it first happened. But no, it's not. It's not. And this is a fact. 100%, Mark. 100%. Trump is going to fail miserably. Miserably. And I have to say, that's the one thing that these insane, disgusting appointments means is this is not going to be an effective authoritarian government. It is just not. It's going to be bad. It is. I wish I could sell you some pie in the sky crap about it's going to be okay. But yeah, elections have consequences and we're going to eat a few shit burgers over the next few years. We are. But these are not effective authoritarians. They aren't. So how did we get here? How did this happen? I mean, you saw the excitement. I felt the excitement. This really looked like a blue tsunami year. I mean, when you were looking at it, where did we go wrong? Where did we go wrong? And I've done a lot of soul searching when I was gone. And I apologized after the election because I'm normally a bit cynical when I think of human beings. I am. I'm normally a bit cynical, and it serves me well. I'm rarely disappointed. And this is one that I'm not really going along with. Royal Blue, I thank you for posting this, but I'm now going to crap all over your comment. Now I'm not along with conspiracy theories. I'm not there. The exit polls, our exit polls, match the results of the election. If there was some anomaly out there, if there was something somebody could point to, Mike, I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you. And I'm sorry about not having the hat on today. I do apologize for that. I normally wear it. Wore it all over Central America, but I did not wear it. I can't wear it here because, like I said, lost my earbuds. I didn't lose them. They died on me this morning. So yeah, we're going to have to do this one with headphones. But, and I got a message. Oh, cool. Cool. We'll get to that in a little bit. Thank you. But yeah, I'm not going along with conspiracy theories. I'm not. Now, don't get me wrong. If something comes up and there's evidence, man, I will be all over it like white on rice. I will. But our exit polling really matches the results. And at some point, we just got to look in the mirror and say, okay, we got kicked in the cooter. We did. How did it happen? Well, let's talk about that. I know what I did. I know what I did. I fell into the trap of talking to each other. And the excitement and just the anticipation, the idea. Think back to the election before, the days before. There was some nervousness and, but think about what you were thinking about the country at the time. It's like, wow, we've really turned a corner. We are really, really, really doing this. It's going to be freaking great. I mean, we're leaving it behind. We're leaving a lot of the bigotry. We're leaving all the hate. We're leaving it's going to be freaking great. And what happened is we forgot. We forgot an incredibly important thing. And this is not me kissing your ass. It's not. I don't do that. I mean, if you put a comment up I don't agree with, I tell you. There's no point in me kissing your ass and, blowing sunshine up your butt and all that. There isn't. But this is a true fact. If you're watching this show, if you're part of this audience, or you're watching this show on replay, they call you an elitist. I call you the elite. And this is why. Stick with me, okay? We're going somewhere with this. We forgot that the average American is a dumbass. I call them the stupids. And I'm not trying to run an election here, and I don't need the emails and the responses I got on my social media when I've made this point in the last few days, that, that's not going to be helpful. No, this is a discussion amongst us and where we went wrong. So I'm going to be blunt with you. We forgot the stupids. And let me tell you what I mean. YouGov just did a poll, right? And this is participatory, folks. This is not just me talking here. This is us talking back and forth, okay? So I need you to participate here. YouGov did a poll. What percent of the country do you believe thinks is transgender? When you poll Americans and you say, hey, American, what percent of our country is transgender? What do you think the response to that is? Or what percent of the country do you think is transgender? They just did a poll. Great responses. They just did a poll, and the average American thinks that 21% of our society is transgender. Yeah. Now, stick with me here. I'm gonna run through some numbers. Of course, it's not. And I wrote these down because we're going to cut this up. We're going to talk about it, reality, okay? And why I call them the stupids. Because we have to remember, we can't talk to each other. The reasoning we did and the policies we talked about and all of the reasoning through things. And I'll give you an example. You and I talk. We talk about the LGBTQ plus community, since we're talking about transgender issues. We talk about the LGBTQ plus community. Don't do it at work because you'll get fired. But Google gay pride parade nudity. And you will be shocked at what you see. You can do that on Google and get some very, very troubling issues or images. Images I don't agree with. No guy should be walking in a parade with his Johnson hanging out. Period. It's a parade. It's on a U.S. street. You shouldn't be riding a bike in assless chaps in a parade where kids can see you. You shouldn't. Gay, straight, or otherwise. That shouldn't be happening. But here's the deal. You and me talk about this, and we know that's a very small percentage of people. It's not. That doesn't represent the LGBTQ plus community. We know that. We get it. The stupids do not. And I'll make the point. They think there's 21% of our society is transgender. Let's talk about their problems, okay? let's talk about their problem. They ran $250 million in ads about transgender people competing in sports. Right? We saw the stupid Capitol House bill and stuff. So let's talk about it. What percentage of the site of our population is actually transgender? It's 1.6%. Okay. But let's talk about their problem. Let's talk about their problem, what they're really scared of and what they're really focused on, and talk about what it really is number-wise. Okay. They're really talking about kids competing in sports, right? So if you take and you look at the transgender community and you say, okay, what percentage of transgender people are of youth sports age? It's 0.3% of the population, because you clear away the numbers, okay? Then you say, okay, wait a minute. They don't care about transgender men. They care about transgender women. It's transgender women that really bother them. So if you take a look at just transgender women, that's 0.12% of the population. You staying with me? Okay, it gets better. Okay, of that 0.12% of the population that is transgender women of youth age, only 0.0072% of the population is in a school that actually allows transgender students to compete. It's only 6% of schools that will actually allow a transgender female to actually compete in sports, right? So we're down to 0.0072% of the population. And keep in mind, they ran $250 million in ads about this, so that of the American people, they think 21% of the population is transgender. But we're down to 0.0072% are actually in eligible schools, okay? So how many transgender people of school age that happen to be female actually participate in sports? Well, it's only 6%. 6% of them actually participate in sports. So when you extrapolate that out, we're down to 0.001008% of the population this could actually apply to. Okay. But not really, because that 0.001 was just rounded up. 0.001% of the population would have to actually be at one of those schools. Actually, no, you're close. It's 0.001008%. But of those, mind you, you also have to take out the fact that those particular students would have to be at those 6% of schools to create the conditions that they actually worry about, which is a transgender female competing against their daughter. Okay? So that has to match up, and it doesn't. You have to really whittle that number down some more. And then you have to get down to the point where other fact, I'm going along with this. Let me just wrap it up. It's about 70 kids. It's about 70 kids. It is. By the time you're done, it's about 70 kids. You could literally memorize their names. You can memorize 70 names. That's what this applied to. But they think 21% of the population is transgender because the Republican Party ran $250 million in ads. Why? Because the stupids aren't you. They don't have the cognitive ability that you have. And that's a lot of people, folks. And it's not just Americans. It's global, worldwide. This is just a human condition. What percentage of the population do you think they think was Muslim? And this is back to the interactive part. What percentage do you think they think is Muslim? Average American. Come on. Let's see the guesses. And if you're watching this on replay, I do apologize. I do the show interactive. I do round tables. We have discussions, so just bear with us and stay patient if you're watching this on replay. It means something to be here in the live chat. And while you're coming up with your answers, I also want to say we're coming up on 100,000. We're about to break 100,000. So if you haven't hit the subscribe button, do it. Hit the subscribe button. It's free. Doesn't cost you anything. It's like on other social media when you hit the follow button. That's all the subscribe button is. They think that 27% of the population is Muslim. It isn't. It's 1%. It's 1%. What percentage of the population do you think they think is black? They think it's 41%. It's 14. They got those numbers transposed. Not 41% of the population is black. It's 14. Are you seeing their fears manifesting? Are you seeing the machinations in their head? Now, remember, these people vote, and we have to talk to these people. We actually have to get these people to show up and vote for us. And the Republicans have figured out, appeal to their worst, basest instincts. Just do that. What does it matter? We're going to do what the hell we're going to do anyways. We don't get punished for it. Just keep throwing that crap out there. Keep throwing that crap out there. Randy, great question. How? Great. Randy Oliver, great question. He says, how? We're going to get to that, and we're going to talk about that over several shows. We're going to talk about what you need to be doing now, what we need to be doing going forward, and why we're getting there. But I want to talk a little bit more about this. What percentage of the population you think they think lives in New York City? I mean, really, if you had to guess, what the average American thinks that 30% of the population lives in New York City. It's 6%. It's 6%. I'm going to land this plane. This is the big one. What percentage of the population do you think the average American believes is gay or lesbian? %. They think 30%. 30% of the population is gay or lesbian. They do. It is between 5 and 7.5%. But they think it's 30%. Are you seeing the fear manifest inside them and how it comes out? And these people vote. They vote. And we have to deal with them. Folks, they did a poll and they asked people, do you think we should teach Arabic numerals in school? This was the mind-blowing one. And this is a test for you. What percentage do you think of the population said, no, we shouldn't teach Arabic numerals in school? This is a test for you. And we're going to make a point out of this. What percentage of you, what do you think? What percentage do you think said no? 75%, 35%, 50%? It was 57%. It was 60%. Right at 60%. 60% of Americans said we shouldn't teach the number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's what Arabic numerals are. Look, I don't call them the stupids because they didn't put together in their head that our numeric system is Arabic numerals, and they just said we shouldn't teach that in our schools. No, it's not a smug thing like that. Because let me tell you, you take the most, whatever, say, I don't care what your profession, say you're a damn brain surgeon. You are the best in your field. You're at Costco and you're shopping and you're buying hot dogs, and somebody walks up to you and asks you a question about brain surgery. Your brain may not be engaged, right? Your brain may not be engaged. You may not be able to answer that question, just boom, answer. Somebody walks up with a clipboard, says, got a survey. So it's not that they didn't put that together. That's not where it's really, really, really dangerous. Okay? It's not just that. It's not just that they didn't know that our numerals are Arabic numerals. No, it's more this, and this is where we say this fall. It's not just the right wing, folks. We've got this issue too. And stick with me. I'm going to land this plane pretty soon. There's a video. You can go find the video. There's a group that wanted to walk around and it was a prank thing. It was not, but it turned out to be pretty serious. They walked around with a petition on college campuses, and they approached students and they asked them to sign a petition to help fight dihydrogen monoxide contamination. Now I want you to think about that. Now, the failure isn't that they didn't know that dihydrogen monoxide, H2O, was water. Water. Dihydrogen monoxide is water. It's not that they didn't know that, because like I said, you can just catch somebody off of, and you're not used to we call it H2O, we call it water. Nobody calls it dihydrogen monoxide. So yeah, that catch on the use. It's that they signed a petition to stop, to get funding to stop dihydrogen monoxide contamination. Because they told them things like dihydrogen monoxide enters your body and it stays there, which is a true statement. It's a true statement. You're mostly water. That's the problem, folks. That's when it gets to be a problem. When you ask people and people are willing to act. And yeah, I call them the stupids, and I will come up with a better name than that. I will. But it's when they're there, when they're willing to act out. I want you to think about all the dumbasses you've seen, and it's very pertinent now because now we've got Robert Kennedy, the National Institute of Health. This is a big deal. This is a big deal. How many people have you seen at school board meetings and, lashing out, the people that aren't qualified to run a dollar store, that are wanting to set national policy on vaccines? You've seen it. You've seen it with your own eyes. And it's a problem. It's a problem. And the question is, what do we do about it? Because, this was about a 50-50 election, folks. I want you to feel better about this election. I do. We lost, and it sucks. But you need to get up and dust yourself off. This was as close to a 50-50 election as it comes. We were not blown out. So moving forward, we've got to take a look at ourselves. So when I say you, and I'm pointing that finger at you, I'm pointing a thumb and three fingers back at me. And I want to apologize again for the mistake I made of getting into that cycle of where I'm talking to you and we're feeling really great about things because we're talking about high-minded policy and we're talking about how great things are going to be and all the things that we're going to do and this, that, and the other. And I forgot I've got to talk to the stupids. We just do. People say, what are we going to do going forward? One of the things we're going to do is we're going to look in the mirror and we're going to adjust our own attitude. We are. We hold our Democratic politicians to really super high frickin' standards. And we cancel our people really frickin' quickly. We're going to have if you're Christian, we'll call it a come to Jesus meeting. If you're like me, we're going to call it a moment of clarity. And we're going to have to understand our messaging is going to have to change. It's going to have to change. We are. We've got to quit having the fights that they want to have. But that doesn't mean that we can't, that we can not talk to the stupids. We have to. We just have to do it in a language that works. And I'll give you an example. The immigration thing. Our messaging needs to be, this is their way to steal from you. This is just sample messaging. This whole immigration thing is their way to steal from you. They want to get in your pocket. Wrecks the economy, but they just want to steal from you. Why? What is the difference between a government-run prison and a private prison? Anything you do in a private prison, you can do with a stroke of a pen in a government-run prison. Why the private prisons? You want to know the real reason they have private prisons? Private prison companies write checks to politicians. Government prisons do not and cannot. That's it. That's the difference. Anything you do in a private prison, you can do in a government prison. This deportation issue, there's already a system that exists to handle deportations. We can handle it all through the system we have now. You know why they want a private system? Money. That private system, Core Civic, can write you a check if you're a politician. Government prison can't. You know, the government could build a facility. If you wanted to build a facility and you wanted to do a lot of deportations very quickly, the government could build a facility on its own and run it on its own with the stroke of a pen. But you couldn't get a check out of it. And that's why they want to do this, to steal from you. That's the kind of messaging I'm talking about. That's the kind of messaging I'm talking about. Because people believe that. People will believe somebody wants to, a greedy politician wants to get a check. They'll believe that. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. It's just one example in a very large storm that we're going to be going through over the next 4 years. But that's the kind of changes in messaging I want to see. Another thing, another change in messaging. You've heard me mention this before, especially if you follow me on social media. And again, here comes another apology from me. I've been calling it a class warfare. What's going on? What brought us Trump and where we're about to go and the fight we're about to have. I've been calling it a class warfare. And that's not true. That's lazy. That's lazy. Let me tell you what I mean. Let me tell you what I mean. It's not class warfare. You know, there are billionaires out there that just want to do business. There are billionaires out there that just want to do business. Yeah, they may not like regulation, or they may not. They're not the ones behind Trump. They're not the ones behind the 2025 project. So when I say it's a class warfare, there are people out there that aren't billionaires. They're just millionaires. They're people that went out and started businesses. They run companies. Well, there aren't, I get you, William. You're saying not many of them, but yeah, but there aren't many billionaires. You're talking about thousands of people, not millions of people. There are millionaires out there that went out and started businesses. I know them personally. And when they became successful, they didn't become dirtbags. Now, there are a lot of them that are freaking dirtbags. They become successful because they're willing to screw people. They're willing to screw people out of overtime. They're really not good people. But not all of them are. So when I start saying, it's class warfare, it's not accurate. And I've got to come up with a better name for these billionaires that do things like fund the Heritage Foundation and they have been fighting the Great Society since before the middle of the last century. This is an old fight. And fortunately for us, they let the masks slip. They really want to go to, God, I love you people. I love you people. They want to go to an oligarchy. They do. It's what they want. They're the radicals. They're the dirtbags. They're the ones that want to wreck our public school system. And they've taken their shot this election. They got the House, they got the Senate, they got the presidency, and they got the Supreme Court. But fortunately, thank God, they didn't get dominant numbers in any one of them. So where does that leave us? Where does that leave us? One, I got to come up with a name for these radicals. We've got to be able to identify them. People need an enemy. They need a target to point at. And it doesn't do any good to set yourself up for a counter argument. If I say it's a class war, well, then there's going to be somebody out there that is wealthy. There's Dolly Parton, for Christ's sake. She's wealthy. She's a millionaire. She's a wonderful freaking human being. What good does it do to say, millionaires are bad? Get the guillotine out. It doesn't do any good. It sets us up to lose that argument. We've got to come up with an accurate name, and I haven't got it yet. You people, think on it, email me. We've got to come up with a good name because we've got to have a target for these people to put on these people. Because, man, it's a war, and they're kicking our ass right now. Yeah, I've used robber barons before, but to me, that just doesn't seem to encompass what they are. They're radicals. They're freaks. And they're not all uniformed either. Some of them are religious freaks. Some of them are, like the Heritage Foundation got most of its money from an Indian billionaire. His goal wasn't religion. He just believes in the system they've got in India over there where you've got this permanent underclass. It's like people are dirt. It's just another resource. He wants to go to pure oligarchy, and that's why he's funding it. So let's talk about it a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about what's happened and who we're looking at. We talked about the 2025 project, and we talked about where it was going to go. And I mean this, folks. I want your input. This is us. We are, it's not me. It's us. We're a community. We got to come up with a good name, a good moniker. This is part of what we're doing going forward to fight this fight. Is we got to take it straight to them. Meanwhile, let's talk about what's going on right now. If we know what's going on right now, we know where we are, we know how we got here. We can figure out where to go. I showed you the video of Russ Vought before the election talking about the 2025 project. They were like, "Oh man, I'll tell you, my own grandson came at me on social media on one of my posts. I told you I got a son that's a Trumper. My grandson is just turned voting age. Came at me with, no, Trump said he wasn't going to do the 2025 project. That's a lie. My grandson called me a liar." Well, guess what, son? Russ Vought is in the White House on January 20th. One of the architects, one of the creators of the 2025 project, Russ Vought, who I showed you the video. I showed you the video of him saying, ignore what Trump says about not liking the 2025 project. He's all on board. Well, he runs the Office of Management and Budget now. Remember all of those people I told you, they're going to fire them. They're going to mass firings. Russ Vought is now in the position to make that happen. He runs OMB on January 20th. That's a problem, folks. That's a problem. You're going to have to fight your asses off. We're going to have to fight. I can't tell you that they're not going to do it anymore. I can't tell you there's a possibility that they're not going to do it anymore. They put the people in place to do it. Be prepared. We're going to have to just paper them in lawsuits. We're going to have to protest. We're going to have to, it's not going to be a for granted anymore. It's going to take action. I'm going to get more to that in a minute. Let me finish wrapping this up. Some of the people these are just a couple. There are so many appointments that really freaking bother me, that really but I'm just going to go over just a couple of them here because, we're going to be talking about this for the next 4 years. We're going to talk about these people in depth. We're going to get into each one of them. These are the ones that are really bothering me right now that I want to talk about today. This is another one. This is Sebastian Gorka. Seb Gorka. He now runs your counterterrorism office. On January 20th, Seb Gorka runs the counterterrorism office. You want to know how bad Seb Gorka is? This douchebag dork. This is how bad Seb Gorka is. This is Michael Anton. Michael Anton is an Islamophobe. He's a radical. He's part of the last Trump administration. This is just, don't take my word for it. This is testimony. This is Michael Anton, one of the radicals, pulled his name out of consideration for working in this Trump administration. He said, I'm out. Michael Anton was going to be the deputy national security advisor. Remember Walls, the radical we talked about in the last show before I left? He was going to be his deputy. He said, I know. When you nominated Gorka? No. They fired Gorka in the last Trump administration because he's such a freak, such a radical. John Kelly fired him. You know what we don't have this time around? We don't have a John Kelly. There isn't one. So even the radicals are saying, no, I'm not joining this administration. Taking their names out of contention. That's how bad this is going to be. That's the fight that we've got to be in. Folks, Seb Gorka, you're not just going to have Muslim bans. They're going to go to frickin' Michigan. All of you Genocide Joe people that were making shit up. When Joe Biden was saying, hey, we're not going to sell Israel any more 2,000-pound bombs. We're not going to do that. And he was actually working to reel in Netanyahu, and you called him Genocide Joe and all that other shit. Guess what Seb Gorka's going to do? It won't just be Muslim bans. Seb Gorka's a round them up kind of guy. And there is no one in this administration to put a check on him. No one. No one. But I wish I could tell you that was going to be the worst of it. It's not. You know, we talked about and there you go. Got another one here. It's genocide. Oh my God. Yeah. Well, good luck with that, because you may have to move to Gaza by the time we're done. Good luck submarining the Democratic Party because you want to say it's genocide. You know, I've supported the Palestinian people my entire adult life. But I was smart enough to look at the situation. And again, this is the problem. This is the problem. Talking to the people that can reason versus talking to the stupids. I could see a way forward for the Palestinian people to their own nation. Gone. Gone. Man, I hope you feel good about yourself. I hope you put it in caps. It's genocide. Woo, that paid off in this election. Smart. Did you get your goal? Did you get what you were looking for? That's what I'm talking about, folks. That's the look in the mirror that we need to be having. I want to stop that. You want to stop that. You made it happen worse. You made it impossible for me to help stop it. And you're still going. Still going. But it gets worse, folks. It gets worse. This is Scott Bessent. This is Scott Bessent. Scott Bessent is going to be our Treasury Secretary on January 20th. Let me tell you what's so fucking just netherworld, bizarro world about Scott Bessent, okay? Remember how, like, forever, you know, I was Soros funded. You were Soros funded. Everything was Soros funded. George Soros was the shadow government. He was you know who Scott Bessent worked for? Almost entire professional career? George frickin' Soros. He is George Soros's protege. Yeah. You know, all the anti-LGBTQ plus rhetoric and all the other stuff, he's openly gay. Yeah, remember how they attacked Pete Buttigieg because he's gay and this, that, and the other, and he's just been Scott Bessent's openly gay. Married, 2 kids. I don't have a problem with any of that because I know who George Soros is. He's a freaking conservative who's always given money to conservative causes. But the stupids, it's just the bizarro world aspect of it that's like, I don't care that he's gay. I don't. You know what I care about? You know what I care about? This is what I care about. This is what I care about. Scott Bessent said this. He said this. Now, you've heard Trump has come out and said, you know, we were worried. Tariffs. And we talked about it. Tariffs are going to be a disaster. And everybody had in the back of their mind a little hope, a little glimmer of hope. Just a little glimmer of hope that the grown-ups would take Trump aside and say, don't do that. Don't do that. Just let that one die. Just don't say tariffs anymore. And we'll forget you ever said it. And don't do that. Because, you know, tariffs will wreck our economy. Oh, no. Scott Bessent? You know what Scott Bessent said about tariffs? Oh, tariffs don't cause inflation. You want to know why? And he said this, man. He said this. You know why tariffs don't cause inflation? Because tariffs make these things over here more expensive. And that just takes money out from over here, and people don't buy these over here. So technically, these things over here ain't more expensive because you ain't bought them. So tariffs don't cause inflation. He said that. He really said that. He really said that. And he's our Treasury Secretary. Oh, I love that. I love you folks. I love you folks. I love you folks. This is why I love our community more than anything. Taxes. That's a great one. That I may steal that, my friend. I may steal that. Taxes. So Trump announced 25% tariffs on Mexico, 25% tariffs on Canada, and an additional 10 over those and the tariffs that we already have on China, an additional 10% on China. And what did I tell you was going to happen? What did I tell you was going to happen? I told you. The minute they put those tariffs out, political musings with Amy Manuel. Amy, I'm glad you're here. Schadenfreude with each appointment. Who's going to build your wall on affordable houses after mass deportations? Let me tell you about your wall. Base that wall is concrete. So it's concrete and steel, right? Guess what we buy from Canada? Guess what we buy from Canada and Mexico? Concrete and steel. I just got to laugh. If I didn't laugh, I'd cry. I would cry. Big part of this election. People, houses are expensive. Oh, really? Wait until you try to buy a house with lumber that has a 25% tariff on it. Yeah, but it's worse. It's worse. It's not just steel. It's not just concrete. It's not just lumber. It's worse. It's not just food. It's tomatoes. You like tomatoes? You like tomatoes? You know, they like to talk about produce from Mexico and how it's going to get more expensive. And they always talk about avocados. Oh, it's just avocados. You and your avocado toast. You know, tomatoes. We get a huge percentage of our tomatoes from Mexico. Yeah, blanket 25% tariff on all of them. But let me explain how hyperinflation happens, folks. The president of Mexico, President Scheinbaum. I think I got an image of her. I think I've got an image of her. We got a couple of articles. I thought I pulled just her image up, but I've got a couple of articles that have her picture. Let me pull one up. Be patient with me. Claudia Sheinbaum, the new president of Mexico, sent a stern letter to Donald Trump after he announced his tariffs. And he says, cool, you want to put tariffs on goods? We're going to put tariffs on goods. That's Claudia Sheinbaum. She's already announced, she came out and made a very public statement. She said, look, this is a trade war. You do this, this is a trade war. That's what this is. And I explained to you before, tariffs are real easy to put on and really freaking hard to take off because they're not unilateral. You put a tariff on them, they put a tariff on you. You can't just repeal your tariff now because they still have a tariff on you. It takes a long-term negotiations, planning, strategy. You have to control Congress. You have to control. I mean, it takes an act of God to remove a tariff. But here we go. Here we go. What do you think is going to happen to your grocery prices? And there's a great article I wanted to point you to. I would love for you to go read this article. It's at the New Republic. It's written by Greg Sargent. And it's talking about, it's just mind-blowing hypocrisy of the fact that the excuse they're using for the tariff is they're going to force Mexico to do something about them illegals coming forward across the border. And they, once they get their act together on them illegals, we'll repeal the tariffs. Greg Sargent wrote a great article about how, wait a minute, they're already doing that. So no, your tariffs weren't because of that, and you can't repeal them because of that, because, there's going to be retaliatory tariffs. It's a great article. Thank you, Nancy. I appreciate you, Nancy. I love that you folks are always so far ahead. But what they said the tariffs were for, it's already happening. Crossings are at a historic low because Mexico is already cracking down. Before the tariffs go in place, the tariffs have nothing to do with that. And if that's the case, why Canada? Sorry, folks, we don't have a big bunch of people from Canada rushing down here to lose their health care. That's a lie. It's a great article from Greg Sargent. It's a really good one. You should check it out in the New Republic. But let me, before I lose the point here, why does this cause hyperinflation? Okay, so let's just stick with the tomatoes for a second. It's just one example. You are not one of the stupids, so you understand there's a big picture here, and we're just taking one example. And we're making it a simple example. They put a tariff on Mexican tomatoes. So now you're paying 25% more for your tomatoes because, Mexico doesn't pay that. The companies, the farmers, none of those people pay it. Where does that 25% tariff get paid? When you buy the product. That's when it gets paid. You're going to get Republicans that are part of the stupids that are going to say, oh, no, they pay it when it comes across the border. No. That's like saying you don't pay for the labor to pick the tomatoes. Well, that labor was paid before the tomato got here, technically true, but you paid for it. That labor wasn't free. Same thing with that tariff. But it doesn't just stop there. See, folks, it doesn't just stop there. See, that means Mexican tomatoes are 25% more expensive. What do American tomato farmers do? What do they do? Raise the prices of their tomatoes. But what does Mexico do? What does Mexico do? Oh, you know what? Since you mentioned Kroger's, I love you folks, and this is an interactive show. I love you folks talking about Kroger's. Kroger is going to turn it into a choker. Yeah. Look, Kroger's, what are they going to do? They're not going to raise it 25%. No, they're going to raise it like 40%. They're going to get theirs, man. They got an excuse. It's tariff. It's tariff. Your $1.50 can of tomatoes is now $2.50 because the tariff. Well, that's not 25%. No, Kroger's going to jack their price. American tomato farmers are going to jack their price. But wait, there's more. Remember old Billy Mays? Wait, there's more. It gets better. Retaliatory tariffs. What do we sell Mexico? What do we sell Mexico back? We sell them equipment. We sell them petroleum distillates. We sell them, all of the things that are inputs. Inputs. The reason modern agriculture here in the United States, you get like corn and potatoes and things like that is because those crops don't require a lot of inputs. An input is an expense. It's just an expense. They call them inputs. You can get one guy in a tractor and he can harvest huge fields of these crops because there aren't a lot of different inputs into them. It is really simple. That's why farmers love corn. That's why farmers love soybeans. That's why farmers love all of these crops that are turning out to be not that great for us. Well, economically, they're great because it doesn't require a lot of different people doing a lot to get these crops. Part of those inputs are those petroleum distillates. It's that equipment, that machinery. So the Mexicans are going to put tariffs on all of that. Do you think they're going to eat those costs? No. It just got more expensive for the Mexicans that are farming the tomatoes to grow the tomatoes. So that 25% tariff is now going to be on a more expensive tomato. You follow me? We made it more expensive for to buy the tomatoes, but we're basing that tariff on the cost of those tomatoes. They put retaliatory tariffs on our goods to make them more expensive. The cost of that tomato just went up. So what do American tomato manufacturers do? Raise their price. More money, more money, more money, more money, more money. But you know who doesn't get more money? You. And our Treasury Secretary says, because you're now going to be paying $2.50 to $3 a can for your tomatoes or whatever it climbs up to. There's no inflation because that money you spent on those tomatoes, because you happen to like a little tomato sauce on your pasta. Well, now you're not buying a new TV. So there was never really any inflation. You buying that? You buying that? Because I sure as hell am not. And folks, that's one of the only things that we have going for us in this is that they're incompetent. They're incompetent. They're really, really freaking stupid. And they're not going to be really freaking exceptional fascists. That is your sunshine, your rainbow. They're really, really bad at this. And the Democratic Party is really, really good at fighting. They are. Hakeem Jeffries is not a slouch. He's not. So let's keep going because I want to get to be able to wrap this up for you. Oh, I had another little factoid for you. Yes. 6% of Americans in a survey replied that they thought their chocolate milk came from brown cows. Yeah, it was a small survey, like 1,000 people, but it was a dairy industry survey. But yeah, like 6% of the people, Americans, thought chocolate milk came from brown cows. And they think that they can control vaccine policies for an entire nation. They know better. They know better. That's what we're dealing with right now, folks. That's what we're dealing with. That's what we're dealing with. But I got to tell you, there was a winner in this last election. There was. There was a winner in this last election. And it was China. It wasn't Russia. Putin thinks he got something. He didn't. He didn't. And this is more for another show, but I'll just give you the Cliffs Notes on why Russia didn't win this election. Russia doesn't realize how much of their economy is tied to our stability and how unstable shit's about to get. Russia has a fragile, weak economy. Right now, their currency is collapsing again. Their stock market is imploding again. And folks are going, don't know if they're going to make it. Yeah, Russia didn't win here. They didn't. But China did. And why did China win? Because who here thinks that Trump is really good at foreign relations? Who here thinks that Trump or anybody in his administration has a vision for American leadership? Because I'll tell you what China's been doing. China has what they call a Belt and Road policy. Some people call it the New Silk Road. China had a lot of cash from doing business with us. Predominantly, they had a lot of cash on hand. So China said, hey, I got an idea. We're going to start a policy. We're going to make it less expensive to do business with us. And how do you do that? Well, if you got developing countries or even countries like us in the same boat we're in with aging infrastructures and whatnot, China said, you know what? I'll loan you money to modernize your docks. Yeah. Low interest loans to modernize your docks. And they went all over the world, man. All over the world. Building dams, building roads, financing, improved rail systems. And what they got in return was guarantees on those loans based on, let's say, if you're a country in Africa. China said, look, I know you're cash poor, and I know you're not going to be able to pay this loan back. Guarantee it with mineral rights. Guarantee this loan with mineral rights. And if the economic boom doesn't happen and we'll just have rights to mine minerals. And it's worked. It's freaking worked, man. China, I just came back from Central America. China is exploding on our continent. I saw Geelys. You don't see Geelys here in the U.S. because we put tons of tariffs on them, so they can't sell them here. They sell them in Central America. They sell them everywhere else. Chinese motorcycles. Their infrastructure, you see it when you travel. China doesn't have a relationship problem. Mexico and China are getting along great. Swimmingly. Mexico doesn't have Xi saying, we're going to put tariffs on all your goods just because. Look, Putin did this for a reason. And those tariffs aren't for the reasons they said they have. They are. There's a reason those tariffs went on Mexico and Canada. Both of those countries have left-leaning governments. Putin has pushed to get right-wing oligarchical governments all over the world. All over the world. And this is the way he does it, with chaos. Because, yeah, this is going to cause economic hardship in Mexico. It is. And the stupids are not just, it's global. It's a global thing. They're not going to say, take Canada, for example. They call them the Maple MAGA up there. Oh, Pierre, is trying to take over the government. Pierre Poilievre. The people in Canada, when shit goes bad, because they're not us. And this is what I say, you have to remember this. They're not us. You and I would reason that old Pierre, he's in with Trump. So these tariffs, they're on Pierre. No, that's not what the Canadians are going to do. Not the stupids in Canada, because they're stupids all over the world. They're going to blame the government in power. And then they're going to vote against them. When they should be voting against the right wing who are on board with all of this. That's not what they're going to do. That's not the way people react. And that's the goal. That's the ultimate goal of these tariffs. They make no sense in any other context. They don't. They make no sense it's not going to help with immigration. It's not going to help. In fact, the economic hardship in Mexico would actually drive illegal immigration. Wouldn't suppress it. The only way that this makes any sense is if it is a war, a political war. And it matches exactly what Putin does. He creates chaos to blame the government in power so that he can get an oligarchical government to replace it. But the problem is, Putin's not deep-sided. He's not a deep thinker. It doesn't take a brilliant person to pander to bigotry and cause chaos. It doesn't. She is. She is playing a long game. And she comes out of this chaos smelling like a rose. They're funding infrastructure projects. They're propping up these economies that we're about to try to hurt. This is going to push China and Canada closer. They're already close. That heavy crude oil that comes out of Canada doesn't go to our refineries. Our refineries use West Texas Intermediate grade, light sweet crude. That's what our refineries tend to refine. Heavy crude hits the world market, goes to China. China's refineries are geared for refining heavy crude. Canada and China are already close. And we have a president and an administration that's pushing them closer. And you want to know how bad it is? Keir Starmer, he is the Prime Minister of the UK. We just had a G20 meeting. And at the G20, the US is usually a pretty big deal. They all but ignored us. And Keir Starmer, remember the UK after Brexit, the big deal with them was we're our own entity. at the G20, we get our own table. We're like the US, we're like Japan. We're not part of a group. We're the UK. Well, France, Spain, all the rest of the EU, they're like, yes, we're France, Spain, and everyone else that's members of the G20, but we're the EU. And they clump themselves together at the G20. Keir Starmer, in the last G20 meeting, sat with the EU. And you know who the EU talked to? Not us. About all they told us was, good to see you, Joe. Have a nice life. But they had meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting with Xi. You know, BRICS has never been a real threat until now. Because if you want to say who won this election, yeah, it's Brazil. It's India and China. So, look, I get it. I get it. I screwed up in this last election, and I'm sorry. I got high on my own supply. BRICS, B-R-I-C-S, it stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. It's a trade bloc. Their stated goal is to replace the U.S. currency as the world currency. Yeah, they're the real winners in this last election. We're going to have a lot of work to do. And yeah, I did. I screwed the pooch. I got high on my own supply and started believing. I got into this conversation where I was talking with you, people that can reason things out, people that can think things out. You're not the base among us. You're not easily, you're not swayed with bigotry. You're not swayed with hate. You think things through. And we started dreaming about what could be. When I should have kept my head out of the clouds, and I should have been, we should have been going after the stupids. Because they're voting now. And that's what we got to do going forward. So this is it. This is the part of the show where I tell you what we're going to do. This is what I'm doing. First of all, I'm preparing for an economic downturn. I am. These tariffs are real, and they're going to tear the crap out of our economy. Financially, if you've got means, I would talk to your advisor. I would prepare. If you're living day to day, you're just going to have to prepare mentally for a change in your lifestyle. Inflation is coming. It is going to be back and back with a vengeance. But this is what you can do. And I'm telling you, folks, some of it's going to sound really simplistic, but believe me, it's not. I'm exercising more. I'm getting the hell out of the house more. I am working on my gardens. There will be a vegetable garden this year. I'll show you pictures of it. I'm going to put a big ass vegetable garden in my house this year on my property. You, if you can, do the same. Do the same. The exercise will do you good. The sunlight will do you good. And believe me, you're going to want some of those fresh vegetables around. Double down on the Democratic Party. Hold on. I know. We blew it. We did. But we need to make the cookout real. And the only way we do that, and what I mean by that is this. Look, we talked about bringing us together. They're talking about ripping us apart. They didn't change who we are. They didn't. This was a 50-50 election. Make the cookout real. Not just a proverbial, hey, you're invited to the cookout. No, I mean, have a cookout. Do it through your Democratic Party. Folks, this is coming at you fast. This is coming at you fast. This is from Fred Wellman. He also works with the Midas Network. Good guy. I'm going to have him on the show here in the next few weeks. This is him on Blue Sky. Since not a day goes by without someone saying, I'm just another big account that doesn't say what to do, I'll once again say what I think we can do. Yada, yada, yada. And then he points out, this is coming at you, folks. This train is on the tracks. The 2025 elections are coming at you. Yeah, 2025 elections. We Democrats are notoriously bad for showing up for off-year elections, and we're even worse about showing up in off-year elections. Folks, in less than 1 year, these elections are coming at you. And this is why it's important. 3 of these House seats that we're picking up, we're talking about 100 votes, 200 votes. Every vote counts. But locally, it's even less. It's even less. Imagine what we can do if you folks that are the ones that can think, the ones that can reason, that understand why this is happening, if you get into your local Democratic Party, and I'm going to work with mine, literally, I'm going to take my smoker down and we're going to have the cookout with our LGBTQ plus friends, with our Black friends, with our Asian friends, we're not going to let them turn our country into a freaking hate fest. They cannot change who we are. It's not just going to be proverbial anymore. Hey, we love each other. We're going to get along. No, it's really freaking hard to hate someone or allow something bad to happen to somebody that you looked at in the eye and you know their name. Exactly, Steve. Exactly. I know it sounds like small things. Plant a garden, exercise, drink more water. Well, how the hell is that going to help us? Trust me, you're going to need that energy reserve, and drinking more water is going to knock a little bit of weight off you. I've been stress eating. I put on 2 pounds, man. I've been stress eating too. Drink more water. Me and Mrs. Texas Paul, we've already got a regimen planned out. We're going to be exercising more. And yes, I'm going to be speaking more. I'm going to be getting out. Do it. Do it. Double down on the Democratic Party. Be a ride or die Democrat. Inject your ideas. You can't do that sitting on social media. Call. There is in the county you live in, there's a Democratic Party. If it's too small and you can't get a hold of anybody or whatever, call the next county over. Sheriffs, school boards, all of these people, all of these races are decided by just a handful of votes. And if you get involved, and do the opposite of what they think. They think that you're going to be beaten down. Do the opposite. Pound water, exercise, get fired up. Go meet your neighbor, press flesh, build that community. Shock the shit out of them. Hey, don't they know we won? You didn't win shit. You think you changed us? You just motivated us. That's all you did. And going forward, we have to remember, and yes, I will quit calling them the stupids. That was for us. Hey, man, I know you think it's a joke, but now get your damn colonoscopy. Do the things that are good for you. Part of this, what I'm talking about, is some self-love. Do that because you're going to need that energy. You're going to need that emotional strength. They didn't change who we are. They didn't. They didn't change who we are. We are who we are. And we're going to be smarter going forward. So when you get a Democrat and you see some messaging that isn't particularly high-minded, we don't cancel them. We don't. We understand. They got to talk to those people that think chocolate milk came from brown cows. They got to talk to that 60% of Americans that think we shouldn't teach Arabic numerals in school. We've got to develop that messaging. Get back to basics. Save the high-minded conversations for when you and I are having a beer over some brisket. And I'll make you this promise. I will make you this promise. If you will go out and you will join your local Democratic Party and you will plan a cookout and you will invite the community, I'll come. I'll come. Let's do this. Let's do this. I love you folks. I'm sorry I couldn't wear my hat today. Like I said, I'm going to go shopping, get me a new set of earbuds. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. We're going to keep working and keep after it. In the meantime, enjoy some Texas cities at night.